Welcome to our meeting. The date is August 21, 2025. The time is 6 p.m. This is an open meeting of the Grand Island City Council. The City of Grand Island abides by the Open Meetings Act in conducting business. A copy of the Open Meetings Act is displayed in the back of this room as required by state law. We have some representatives of the Boy Scouts with us tonight. Steve White, who is with KRVN. I hear him quite often. Asher, Steve and Sarah's son, a sixth grader at Barr Middle School, and the wife, Sarah, who serves on our library board. They are going to come forward. We are honored to have them lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Steve and Asher. It's always nice to have scouts come to our meetings and show an interest in our process of governing the city. Mrs. Grenier will now perform roll call.
Council President Sheard.
Present.
Councilmember Stelk.
Present.
Councilmember Conley and Nickerson will be absent. Councilmember Brown.
Present.
Councilmember Hazy.
Present.
Councilmember Mendoza. Present. Councilmember O'Neill.
Present.
Councilmember Pollock.
Present.
Councilmember Lanfair.
Present.
And Mayor Steele.
Present. Also present are Jill Grenier, the city clerk, Laura McAloon, the city administrator, Patrick Brown, the assistant city administrator and chief financial officer, Carrie Fisk, the city attorney, and Keith Kurtz, the public works director. Individuals who have appropriate items for city council consideration should complete the request for future agenda items form located at the information booth. If the issue can be handled administratively without council action, notification will be provided. If the item is scheduled for a meeting or study session, notification of the date will be given. A sign-up sheet was available in the lobby for individuals wishing to provide input on any of tonight's agenda items. If you did not sign up to speak on an agenda item, please come forward, state your name and the agenda topic on which you will be speaking. No one has come forward, so we shall continue. Our agenda item 6A, Fiscal Year 26, Finance Department Budget Proposal. Mr. Brown, good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon, Council. We are going to start off with the finance budget presentation. And with that, during these presentations, obviously I'm going to be up here all evening. Please just ask questions as we go. And if I get this to work. Yes. So, Finance Department, personnel services increasing 3.8%, operating expenses increasing 31.9%. That is due to audit services contract being much higher than expected. So it's a new 3-year, I think a 3-year or 5-year contract with Bergen BVD. Any questions on that? With that,
Mr. Sheard.
Sorry, what does that represent, the 31.9%? Sorry, what does that represent?
most of that cost is audit costs.
What's the number? How much?
I think I budgeted 120 up from 70.
Okay.
So the
Like 30 grand, 40 grand?
50.
50 grand.
Yeah.
Okay.
That math is right. So, so yeah, just the audit costs are increasing. I've also, we have a module, as council knows, we have somebody working on a strategic plan for the city. And so we also have a strategic plan module, or actually, I'm going down the wrong path here, but I'll finish my thought. Eventually, we're going to use this strategic plan in our budgeting moving forward. What I wanted to say is we have in the module a financial reporting system that actually does the comprehensive financial reports. They are going to help build the complexities of the financial reporting for the audit, and so we'll be able to do that monthly once we've got it built. So I built some of that cost into the audit costs. If you notice, we've been written up for that for the last 6 years. So
Mr.
for
Sheard,
sure.
your lights, you're still on. Did you want to speak? Okay, that's fine. I just didn't want to overlook you.
So in addition to our budget, we are proposing a reorganization or some reclasses in the finance department. The assistant finance director would be reclassed to a controller. And this becomes, it's a more accurately reflects the responsibilities and expectations of that role. We're looking to move an accountant to a budget and purchasing manager. The budget and purchasing manager would be so important in this organization. I will tell you, budget is a 12-month process. We do not have dedicated people to do this budget process. Purchasing takes someone for meticulously looking at RFPs, making sure that, you know, all purchases are within budget. They're also making sure that all the contracts are signed and we have some sort of systematic order of keeping our contracts. And on top of that is looking for savings. In the way it is set up right now, there's just not enough time in the day to do purchasing right, to really expand it and really find some savings for the city.
Mr. Hossie?
Thank you, Mayor. Pat, I really am glad to see the purchasing manager position, you know, coming into the finance department. My question is really, are they going to be able to do any project management along with the purchasing? And so we have a lot of projects going on, you know, this year. Are they going to be, the purchasing manager, are they going to be involved as like project managers as well?
Yes. So what I would like for that person to do is update our website with the way the project is going, with updated costs, maybe even some pictures, and be in a pretty robust, transparent process. So yeah, that's exactly what I'm going to have them do.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Pat.
Another proposal that we're wanting to do is moving the utility billing division to the utilities department. They're already located at 1306, where the utilities is housed. And so that'll take a little bit of, I guess, stress off City Hall finance people and more concentration on city operations. And also moving the grants administrator to community development, along with side by side with Amber, just so that we have a little bit of redundancy there. And so Chad has agreed to add another person, and I agreed to let him take a person. So that's our proposal for finance. Any other questions before we move to IT? Okay.
Mr. Pollack has a question.
Yeah, Pat, some of this comes out of general fund, some of it comes out of utilities. These job classifications are paid by a whole bunch of departments, aren't they?
Yes. So we have an administrative fee, which is paid by the enterprise funds. And so there's a percentage that each enterprise fund pays for basically support services. It's for finance, HR, legal, administration, and yeah, whatever. So
Looking through the papers, why, I kind of got that impression, but I wanted to make sure that I was reading it right.
Yep.
Thank you, Pat.
Absolutely. For our IT department, it's an internal service fund. So personnel services increasing 7%. This is due to a reclass of a systems technician to an information technology infrastructure engineer. This position was budgeted at step 3, includes benefits. This was done earlier in the year. Currently, we have 2 vacancies in IT, so we have a total staff of 6. Actually, should be 7. Operating expenses increased 7.6%, or $69,740. This is due to antivirus software and the Microsoft licensing, which increases every year.
Mr. O'Neill?
I just have to ask a couple of questions on this one. Steph might be able to help answer some of this too, but what is the number of devices that you guys have that you have to secure at the city? And also, do you have any statistics for the amount of threats that are blocked by your current security software?
Yeah, sure. So we just moved to a new antivirus about 3 weeks ago. We're currently protecting about 500 devices, approximately 60 servers. I don't have good stats on the attacks we've blocked. As you probably know, once you move to a new antivirus, it attacks everything, whether it's good or bad, until it learns, and you put exceptions in. So those numbers are a little skewed. But so far, we're happy with the product, and we are able to manage it a lot better than the one that we had previously.
And are they assisting, helping manage it with some of the increased costs too of responding to any incidents?
Yes, so we got the whole Vigilant package with the 24/7 SOC. Yeah, we have the whole data center behind us with this product.
The thing too, and I can just tell you in the threat landscape, it's doing nothing but increasing as well.
What's that?
The threat landscape is doing nothing but increasing as well from what I see, so.
Yes, yeah, but so far we're really happy with the product, and they've been helping us a lot, so.
Glad that we have better controls.
Yeah.
And then also, as far as the staffing, it sounds like you're down 2 positions, and you're trying to hire a higher level position, which I think you guys have kind of been lacking for a while, is my understanding.
Yes.
So get one higher level local person and rely less on contractors, or that's all I have. But thank you.
So I would like to add, for the 2 vacancies that we have, I think Spencer did some marketing for us, had some of your suggestions. Incredible turnout. We've never had this many people apply for IT positions before. So we have scheduled, I think, next week or I think maybe the week after, we have 6 to 7 interviews for each position with highly qualified candidates. So we're excited. It's been, 5 years, 6 years since we were fully staffed? Close to 4. So, yeah, it feels like 6. So, any questions? All right. Moving on. So in the last part of tonight's presentation is council's ability to weigh in on some decisions. So first up is the FTE request decision. In the box, in the blue and yellow up here, these are new FTE requests. If you notice here, that's a new number. My math was off. Jack caught me on that one today, so it reduced it by half. Some way, somehow, it doubled. So we have a police officer at step 2, a community service officer part-time at $60,000, full-time community service officer at $77,200, a community service officer lead, $80,000, a maintenance worker parks, step 1, $46,877, The reason the wages looks a little lower is because he's got a start date of 3/8. So that's half the year. So that is why the wage looks a little different. Otherwise, it'd be 54. Attorney at 150,000, step one. Library assistant 1 part-time. This is actually 2.5 people for 39,900. Same for the next line. So it's 5 people. These 5 people would work 16 hours a week, which equals 80 hours in a 2-week period. So no benefits for them. So is there something you would add, subtract?
Mr. Hossie?
Thank you, Mayor. So if I could just go down, just so I understand what everybody's doing. And when we start at the top, we have a police officer. Now, is that just adding one to the force, or is that with the animal control related? What's that person?
We'll let Kevin speak to that.
So our original stay on target for our 60-month was 5 because we were talking about a traffic unit, but this one police officer that we're asking for, specifically what we're going to do is put that position into our fleet, code enforcement, and animal control duties. So the officer that we're putting in there is not only going to deal with helping the fleet sergeant out, but also help investigations for code, animal control, and for the safety side of it.
And then the next 3, the 2 community service officers, are those animal control?
Yes, sir.
Kind of
One of those is
positions?
a part-time because we're looking at 2.5 positions to deal with animal control. And so one is a lead, and then the other one is a full-time as well, and then one is a part-time.
Okay, thank you, Chief. Then on, the next one was the parks maintenance worker. Was there this one was just for the water, for the sprinkler systems?
I believe he did say irrigation specialist.
Yeah, and that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to reduce the amount of contract, because we probably have, I'm sure with the city our size, we have lots of irrigation systems and lots of them broken.
Yes, over 60 irrigation systems, and they're commercial irrigation systems, so they're pretty complex. It takes somebody very knowledgeable, and they'll do more than just the irrigation systems, but that's primarily what we'd like to have them do. That they'll be, especially during the summer, the irrigation season, they'll be running around fixing irrigation systems.
Yeah, so will this person, because one of the things that got brought up on, I think, Tuesday's meeting, is the golf course in the Parks Department. It has a 40-year-old sprinkler system, irrigation system, and they spend time every year just kind of fixing the problem. They're not proactive in doing it. They're always in a repair mode, and of course, you've probably heard the same stories I did about the one went through a car. But anyway, would that person also be able to help out there at Jackrabbit so they have constant needs as well as any other park in our system do?
They could for sure lend expertise. We do now. We actually share supplies and equipment with the golf course. But this would be primarily, this person would be busy in the parks. And I know Joel and his staff out there, they have expertise in the irrigation systems already that they have out there. And I'm sure they always need more help, like everybody else needs more help. And we would be able to help where we can. But this person, the request today is primarily in the park system.
Okay. Thanks, Todd. And then the next one, I think, was the attorney. Carrie, can you talk to, are we able to reduce contract attorneys, or is just the workload building up? Because when we move purchasing to the purchasing manager and finance, that should have freed up some attorney time, but not enough, so.
It should have. I think what we're learning is it freed up a lot of maybe tasks that weren't within an attorney expertise, approving claims, approving things. It seems to have increased some of the contract negotiation and review timelines and stages. Probably became kind of a wash. Obviously moved expertise where expertise needed to go. As far as that increased workload, I know that was one of the questions last If I recall correctly, the last time I kind of had 3 rounds of questions. Did the workload really increase enough to justify that increase? Was there revenue available to pay for that increase? And could we split the baby, for lack of better words, and use contract services instead of a new employee? And kind of going through and investigating that, it looks like since Grand Island made the move from 1 attorney to 2 attorneys, we've over doubled in population, went up by 40% in land mass, doubled our roads, almost tripled our staff and our budget. The reality is, for legal services, that growth is wonderful, but that growth always comes at the expense of paperwork and legal burden. There's easements to review and contracts to be signed to spend that money. So the workload increases just incrementally. Every single piece of growth adds a little bit. And it looks like during the last large economic recession, when the city took a hit to a lot of employees and we had a lot of layoffs, the legal department at that time dropped from 7 employees down to 3, and has now still, this 20 years later, only rebounded back up to 4. So we kind of fell a bit behind the market. Our comparable cities that we compare to for the rest of our labor force average about 3.5 attorneys compared to our 2. Even amongst Nebraska, if we had a staffing ratio similar to Omaha, we'd be at 3. To Lincoln, we'd be at 4. Papillion, we'd be at 6. So our needs are just behind. What that means in reality is we have the work we have to get done. It means we can't do it as well, spend as much time, and our response time significantly drops. It takes us longer to get back to people, longer to get contracts reviewed. So it's an incremental kind of pain that we feel being short-staffed there. As far as the ability to contract it out, it had a couple folks who asked whether we could kind of split that. The reality is we already do contract out a lot of our legal services. Most of that is appropriately done. That's required by our insurance providers. That's specialty counsel like bond counsel or counsel to help utilities review solar farm tax rebates, things that are beyond our ordinary skill. To contract out our more routine work, which is where we've seen that increase, becomes a lot more difficult. It looks like the legal department went through that analysis about 8 years ago with a private law firm, and the private law firm they were looking to hire advised it was cost prohibitive, that it would cost about twice as much to outhouse the legal department as in-house. In looking at contracting out specific tasks, I received feedback from attorneys who were interested. Their hourly wages ranged, depending on the type of work they expressed interest in, between $250 and $600 per hour. Most of them, the local attorneys, expressed concern about whether they could take it with conflicts of interest they would have. So most of the truly available attorneys would have to come from farther away. Some of those interested attorneys expressed they would charge for travel time. And one of the big downsides to most of those attorneys is, on average, they wanted between 7 and 10 days to review conflicts of interest to see if they would even take the legal work we farmed out to them, and on average expected about a 30-day lead time on any of that legal work, which, again, it's doable, but it would come at the expense of delays of projects. We also looked at the possibility of contracting out the entirety of the prosecution functions, speeding tickets, code enforcement, animal control. For the comparable cities that do that, given our population ratio and trying to find as close to comparable prosecution authorities, we have some cities that are hard to compare to because they have crimes, higher level crimes in their city code than we do. We'd be looking at about $350,000 to $400,000 at that kind of average ratio if we could find somebody who was willing to do so. There are other complexities, like right now our net billed our court fees. We would have to advance those court fees at $50 a case. So procedurally, they'd be difficult. Is it possible? Yes. Would it represent a cost savings? No. And it would represent a delay in services.
So if this person was hired, would you bring him on as soon as you can after October 1? Would that be the idea?
That would be the idea. Hiring in the attorney market is never really that fast and that slow. There's typically more jobs out there than there are lawyers, so that would be the hope. Trying to catch new graduates as they are still looking for jobs, but
I think we had a 4-year experience at that.
yeah.
Do you have a location where you would put that attorney?
I think we would have to Band-Aid for a little while, using some spaces we housed interns this summer, or so some temporary space. I think eventually it would take probably rearranging either the law library or that flex space we use now into an office, but we would find a way.
I wouldn't want to lose the conference room. When we built City Hall, when we hired staff, we ended up losing probably half of our conference rooms in the first 3 years. And so for design purposes, it just kind of defeated our purposes of when we were able to have so many conference rooms in City Hall. I just would hate to see that one go away because it's used quite a bit.
I think for us, we would have to replace it in that flex space if we did move it.
Okay, thank you, Carrie.
Mr. Sheard?
Thank you. Were you done, Chuck?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm fine for now.
Well, I'm going to pick up where you took off. The library, that's 5 people, 16 hours apiece. Talking to our great library staff, seems like it's one of the questions that came up that I came back and asked you, and maybe you can share briefly, is that this is easily hired. Like these positions, it's almost like the IT we heard about. You don't have a problem hiring 16-hour.
Right, we
Part-time.
had 230 applicants for a full-time position, and then our last part-time position, there was a lot of applicants. So there's a lot of people looking for jobs, good quality people, so I think we wouldn't have any problem finding some good candidates to work at the library.
This would allow us, these positions would allow us to be open longer on Saturdays.
Longer on Saturdays, provide more services. The meeting rooms are being used a lot. We're starting to use our for-profit meeting rooms. We're starting to generate more revenue with people wanting spaces that are pretty cheap to come in and have business meetings. And so, people really need those services on not only during the week, but on the weekends. And we see a lot of families that want to come in. I worked a Sunday a couple weekends ago, and it was constant families coming in, kids studying, people meeting, community conversation classes. So it's not like jam-packed, but you can see that people are needing services. And, there's a lot of people that come in that need to fax and scan, and, we're a busy hopping place. Reference help desk is a little bit different with services, not as many reference questions, but more personalized services with staff working and helping people with computer questions. And
Perfect. So to me, most of these, that fits right in. It's good for the city. It's good things we need. So thank you. I want to come back to the attorney question. So you're good.
thank you.
One of the things that was talked about when we talked about this the first time was tracking the hours that we're spending between the 2 attorney positions we have now, to see how much of that is attorney work and how much of that would be billable, or however we describe it. I know we don't bill all of our time, but things that are attorney level work. How can you reassure us that we're at that tipping point? Do you have data that shows, like data that shows the hours of a week that we're spending on attorney work?
I think now that we moved the purchasing agent tasks out of there, unfortunately, there's no busy work, for lack of better words, left really that we're doing. We're spending about 30 to 40% of the time on probably what I'd say routine matters: contract review, easement review, council agenda review. About 30% on prosecution, code enforcement, animal control, those sort of ancillary tasks, and the remainder on probably what I call either just general advice or specialty projects. Everything from Good Life District stuff to one-time grant projects, one-time, projects and programs, or doing things like general advisement of elected and appointed officials, answering of employment questions, some of that routine personnel stuff. As far as what's attributable to the sorts of things that you could bill to a project, for example, if we were a private firm, those are typically limited to the sort of tasks that we already charge a fee to, things like Good Life District application fee, TIF contract fee renewals. For us, that's a little harder because the portion of those expenses that are attributable to administration, whether that's clerk or HR or that, is dumped into the larger city bucket. So those never come straight to us. So we don't necessarily always have a fee we could bill against or a project in particular we could bill
But
against.
are you tracking that time specifically to know what is, I guess it's attorney level work that you're doing that requires another attorney? At 100 and, I mean, this is 25% of our new employee cost here for an FTE.
We can't track time quite in the same way that you do a traditional project. I could say I spent 45 minutes on reviewing this contract or 10 minutes reviewing that contract. But the reality is, as far as we serve more as in-house counsel. So a lot of that stuff isn't attributable to one thing. If I, for example, reviewed the personnel manual and policy handbook changes for human resources, that of course applies and spills over to everybody. What I can tell you is that both of us are busy far more than 40 hours a week, and we're falling behind, not gaining ground, and we're no longer doing non-legal work. So there is, and that's with contracting out as much as we right now can afford to or are required to do. But we are not set up and equipped to bill on a per matter basis, and that's not how our workload really
And I
functions
don't mean
anyway.
to actually for billable hours, I just mean
yeah.
for tracking.
Yeah, and-
just to
and-
be able to
and-
track and know, like I have to track every minute of my day.
Yeah, we literally are not set up to do that, and we don't have projects and clients to bill that to, so it's not necessarily particularly feasible. We did for a while afterwards kind of keep track of more generally, what are we spending on that contract review, on prosecution, on general advisement, and that's where we're at about that third or so split between those general in-house tasks, routine business of the city, and those functions. But legal billing becomes difficult too with some of our more minor tasks. For example, in the legal billing world, you bill in 10-minute increments. Reviewing a speeding ticket doesn't take 10 minutes. So if we time track, we'll artificially inflate certain tasks and then artificially deflate certain tasks. So there's probably not a way for us to get you a truly accurate number, even if we used a private practice billing method, because some of those things would be flat fee charged or are
Again,
done in
not
bulk.
looking
Yeah,
at
it's,
the actual dollar way
Yep.
of tracking it,
Yep.
but just literally, how much time are you guys spending in your week? And you're saying it's more than 40 hours
Yep.
on legal stuff.
yep, yeah.
Is there 40 more hours a week available?
Yeah, I mean, I in those weeks in tracking, I'm probably averaging sometimes it's courtesy of city council meetings and some of those night meetings, somewhere between
6 months a week?
Yeah, it's some of the meeting, if I go in real time versus what it feels like, sometimes those can be a bit different. I'm typically getting here at 7:30 and not leaving till 5:30 and work through lunch on a regular basis, plus night meetings. Stacy similarly works through lunch on a routine basis, and we are falling behind. I think you would probably hear criticism from some of the department directors that we're not as fast at responding to contracts, reviewing documents as they would like. That, of course, ebbs and flows as depending on the season. Summer is always, we will probably always be behind, no matter how many lawyers you give to us, when everybody's building construction projects and acquiring property and spending down budget funds. But there is, I could tomorrow keep a person busy 40 hours a week. No problem.
That was the one that I had the biggest
Yeah.
question about. I think
Fair.
the
It's-
rest of these are,
Yep, it's a,
I think they're all very justified, in my opinion. I don't have any issues. It's to what we just talked about, making sure that if we're gonna, again, 25% of that on one person, making sure that they're getting our value back to our city, and I'd like to hear what everybody else is thinking on that, but I feel a little bit better after hearing you talk. Thank you.
Mr. Pollock.
Thank you, Mayor. I can see a need for all of these employees. We've been short the attorneys for years. They've been swamped since before I left the city. The library assistants, we put off and put off and put off getting help there. The maintenance for parks is always short. And PD, yeah, they need the 4 officers. The bad thing is, people remember that when things go south, those are usually the departments we cut first. Just remember when we're adding all these people, the PD is a lot of times the first one that gets the axe. I don't know why, but they do. The attorney, yeah, the second attorney would probably get the axe. But are they needed? Yeah, definitely. They're buried in there. They've been buried for years. And the library assistant can do more with less than anybody I know of. So I have no problem with any of these. It's just, we got to be careful going down the road, folks. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Still?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is for Officer Denny for the office manager position. I got an email this morning or the last couple of days. Can you justify that pay for the office manager? And is it comparable to other office managers in the city?
For the office manager, yes. And we did a comparison with the array. What most departments our size and larger are doing is civilianizing or putting into one chain of command non-police officer personnel. And ours is all IBEW under that one proposed change. And so that's what we're doing is we're moving that to a more executive level, but we're also reorganizing the department to where we have a chain of command, many more people under that one position. And the office manager position is comparable to the array, but also the support services administrator is also comparable to the ones that we could find. About half of the departments that we looked at, I would say, had something that was a non-police officer that was comparable. But the other half really had police lieutenants that were over what this position would be over.
How does that compare to an office manager in the utility department, pay-wise?
I don't know what the utility department does. I know that this office manager was probably more comparable back in 2019. We don't have any administrative assistants in the police department. And so this position was everything from an administrative assistant to an office manager. They supervised about 7 clerks directly. What that's morphed into, because we've deleted, in 2019, we deleted a captain. And so more and more things started piling into this position, this office manager position over the last 6 years. And so what you've seen is that they've taken on a much more increased role, not only in things that they're doing, technical things, Spillman, body cams, payroll, but they've also increased their span of control to comparable to what a lieutenant is. And so instead of being directly over 7 clerks, this position now is over 4 direct reports, 2 supervisors, 2 leads. That supervises the clerks. It also supervises victims assistants and the property room. So all IBEW non-police personnel. That's expanded this role a lot. Plus, we've elevated this position to an executive level to where it's a direct report to me now, because I had to take some responsibilities under me because our division chiefs, we only have 2 of them, were pretty busy themselves. And so what I did was peel this office manager position out from under Division Chief Elliott, and I had it report directly to me. So now I have 3 direct reports. So all 3 of them are executive level, very high functioning, visionary, budget, they're involved with the budget, with the division of the police department. And so it's changed a lot over the last 6 years. If I had my choice, I would delete the office manager position and open a whole new position for support services administrator and just hire for that. But the reclass is a lot less expensive. I didn't mention last time that the office manager is not salaried, so it's overtime. And easily could get, if we don't flex out or do comp time or things like that, this position could easily get 4 to 6 hours a week. So I did my rough math on that, and the $17,800 that you look at as a difference going from top tier office manager to bottom tier administrator is actually more about equal to about $5,300 net, because the administrator position is salaried. And so they wouldn't be getting overtime. And the business manager, or the office manager, does get overtime, and essentially they get enough overtime to make that difference about $5,300 in essence.
Sounds like it's kind of a combination of several positions. that includes a lot of knowledge and expertise that's required to fill the position.
I can't stress enough how important this position is, not only for the police department, but also for the reorganizational structure of what we're looking at with our 60-year vision. It's been needing incremental improvements since 2019. It hasn't got that attention. This is the way what other police departments our size and larger are doing. It actually saves money in the long run because I don't have to hire an administrative assistant, which wouldn't fit the bill, or hire another division chief in, which certainly would be much more expensive. So I've looked at a lot of different options as a police chief. I've looked at what other departments are doing. My educational background also supports this type of restructuring in line with a lot of more modern police departments. It's a good way to go as far as proper supervision over the people that it would be over.
Sounds like a good move on your part and a well-thoughtful decision. Thank you.
Mr. Brown?
Yeah, I pretty much agree with everything Mike said. I agree with all these positions, and I think we've waited till the time that we need to add them in, and I think I agree with everything on there.
Mr. Hossie?
Thank you, Mayor. Chief, I mean, this is, the only one I have a question on at this point is really about the one reclass of the office manager. And you've said, and you have came in and you had like a 5-year plan, and you talked about getting in this 5-year plan. I'm good with the 4 positions on top and, that you have this year. And so I went back and let me just see if I can phrase what I think has happened. In 2024, in the police department, we added a police sergeant, we added 2 lieutenants, and in the police records, we had 7 police records clerks and an office manager, and we created the title of a supervisor. So then we lowered 1 records clerk and made 1 supervisor, so we still had 7, but 1 was a supervisor and 6 were records clerks and the office manager.
Correct.
And in 2025, we added another lieutenant. We changed police captain to division chief, so we did that kind of a swap as well. And we did it again. We added another police records supervisor and 1 less records clerk. So now we have 5 records clerks and we have 2 supervisors and an office manager. So we've addressed that sequence of work 2 years in a row, and this is now our 3rd year in a row. My challenge with the reclass is this: the max wage for an office manager and a max wage for a support service administrator, it's a 65% increase in salary of the max wage. Now, granted, our personnel policies doesn't get you the 65% right away, but it does over time, and so at $40.11, which is the max wage of the office manager today, and what the request is to take it to the new reclass at $66.23, it is currently $4 an hour under a police officer. The wage for the office manager is lower than a police officer. This reclass takes them higher than a police officer, higher than a police sergeant, higher than a police lieutenant, and takes them right up to captain wage. Like you said, it's becoming an executive and report direct to you. It's almost a bridge too far for me to support today. What I would like to do, and I don't want to just say, no, this is not the right, I don't know if it's the right thing or not. I'd like to sit down in a study session over the year and say, okay, what's the rest of the 5-year plan? Because I've seen and we've supported fully, because you guys have done quite well. You've filled the positions, you're doing a great job. But this one position, I think what it does for me, for a clerical position, takes it the highest clerical position in the city of Grand Island, the whole organization. I don't want to just look at it as a reclass. I'd like to just look at it a little bit broader, and we don't really have all the time to do it. I can't support it tonight, but I do want to look at it because maybe it is the best answer. But I have to look at the rest of the plan because we've already addressed by adding 2 supervisors. Now, we still have the 8 people there.
7.
Now, in the police records clerk group, we still have the 8 people. We now have added 2 supervisors. Now we're talking about the 3rd thing. But since when I looked online, you know, you have moved over the evidence technicians and the victim's assistants under the office manager, where they were under a lieutenant before.
I think division chief. They were under division chief.
Well, it was whoever the CID lieutenant is, that's the way it was online.
So property and evidence was under the CID lieutenant.
Yeah.
And victims assistance, I believe, was under division chief.
Okay.
This reclass is tied to the lieutenant pay grade, so it's not higher than the lieutenant pay grade.
Yeah, and maybe in the 26 wages, I didn't compare it to the 26 wages, I compared it to the 25 wage scale. You know, where it takes it right up to where a captain is, or within $1 of where a captain is.
It will be tied to the lieutenant pay grade, so it will be exactly the lieutenant pay grade.
But I think, you know, again, we're taking a position that's below a police officer and passing a police officer, a police sergeant, a police lieutenant, or equaling a police lieutenant in 26. I just think I need more time to look at the whole plan, rather than, we're nickel and diming stuff, and I really want to do the right thing. But everything that I see just has flags, and I just want to make sure that before we approve it, we think it's the right thing to do. And I just kind of need to, for your benefit, because I know you're doing a great job, I just need to see the rest of the plan to see how it all, you know, where are we at next year. This one concerns me, and that's why I can't move forward with this one yet. But I do appreciate everything you guys are doing. I'm good with all the other 4 positions that you're asking for, so.
The record supervisors that we had, the reason we had 2, otherwise we'd have 1 if we just had, if we had that number in one room. Unfortunately, we have records clerks downstairs that handle the front desk, so they're geographically separated, so they needed representation where they were in the front. And then we have records clerks that do a lot of online admission to the county attorney. They do tickets, so they needed representation in their area as well. So we had records clerks in 2 geographically separated areas, which is why they needed advocacy where they were at. The lead that's in the property and evidence is not really a supervisory position, it's semi-supervisory. And so we have a lead there that reports to this position, and then a lead in victims assistance. But the pay going forward, we tied directly to the lieutenant's pay, and what you see on the reclass pay is 26, or next fiscal year's, and that's what the lieutenant's pay was going to be next year as well.
I just need to see the internal equity, you know, factor that I haven't seen yet. And you know, it's a bridge too far. I don't think I've ever seen a 65% pay raise for a salary class as a reclass before. And so I want to do it right, but I have to look at it further than we have so far.
2018 and 2021, there were 2 reclasses that were quite a bit more.
Okay, thank you, Kevin.
Mr. O'Neill.
I just want to kind of go back on that subject as well. You know, for the record, I'm a very big proponent of paying everyone fairly for the work that they do. And I've done budgets a long time, and I've seen things like this come up once in a while. And, you know, on my math, it's about an $18,000 increase, which I think Pat Brown could correct me here, probably about 21%. I kind of look at those percentages, you know, and when we have that, I'm saying, you know, there's kind of a high bar that needs to be cleared. And I just want to look, you know, this is a public process. People are watching. Other city employees look at this too, and maybe somewhat similar positions, although there's some differences. And I want to know, what type of comps have we looked at? I know you mentioned a lot of our places are doing it, but do we have comps out there that have been done for what these people doing these duties are paid?
Right, that's a good question. So we looked at our array, which includes cities like Ames, Iowa, Iowa City, Manhattan, Jefferson City, Lawrence, Rapid City, Sioux City, the normal array that we look at. What we found again was that a lot of those non-police officer positions were overseen by lieutenant. As you saw with what we had in property and evidence and victims assistance, they were overseen by lieutenant position. Well, that lieutenant is much better used overseeing police officers, in this case, criminal investigation officers, as opposed to knowing what's going on with IBEW and what's going on in the property room, what's going on in victims assistance. So it's a much better move to carve them out. And like I mentioned, this is a salaried position, it's not an hourly position. And so what you're seeing, the $17,000 or so, really is about $5,300 if you take into account a minimum of 4 hours a week that the office manager would be using.
And I just want to be really, I'm kind of a Chuck on this too. I'd like to see more detail. You know, I think there's more of a kind of a business case that needs to be made, and I'd like to see more. And this, a lot of it is for the public and kind of protect people. I want to prevent animosity of people watching this process as well too, and make sure we don't set dangerous precedents with it. So it sounds like that they're getting new responsibilities that they did not have in the past.
A lot.
Yeah.
A
So
lot. Over the last
that's
6 years, a lot.
key thing too. So the job description significantly changed. And I just want to make sure that any comps that are being looked at, that the job descriptions are pretty much apples to apples. I've worked on a lot of comps over the years. I know sometimes it's a little bit tricky, but I just really want to make sure that there's a lot of homework done to justify any changes at that scale.
I think we submitted the job description for office manager versus administrator.
So, okay, thank you.
And Mr. Pollock.
I'm like Ryan and Chuck. I need to see more information on this. I have no problem with the 4 policemen. This one, there's some red flags in there that just bother me. The first one is, if this goes through, we're going to have a whole handful of clerical workers that are going to be wanting the same amount of money for doing the same kind of work, and I can't say that I blame them. And if they're 80% within the range, CIR is going to say, pay those people. Now, I want to look and see what those job descriptions are, what our job descriptions are. I won't vote on this until I know what's going on. We could be opening a big can of worms.
And I think we're confusing clerical. This has nothing to do with clerical. It's executive level. Kind of like if you're outside the police department, everybody who's watched cops know how to be a police officer. Nobody knows what this job entails except probably me and the person that does it.
Yeah, but they all have job descriptions, Chief. And if those job descriptions are anywhere close to being the same, judges don't care what you do.
I can promise you they're not.
So, we'll have to take a look at it.
Mr. Sheard.
Thank you. I don't want to be the contrarian here, but I guess I see it as a different job. And I've talked to Chief about it a little bit. To me, it seems like this isn't just another of our highly valuable clerical workers. This is a supervisory position. This is somebody that will be looking over many others and has, I guess what Chief is saying about the $5,300 raise over what they're doing now, $5,300 plus they're taking on new responsibilities. I guess after looking at the job description that we got, I don't look at it as a clerical position. I look at it as a supervisory position over, using different terms, but in education we have certified and classified. It's kind of like your officers and your non-officers. And this is the highest of the non-officers. Is that a good way of thinking it?
It is, and like I said, a lot of departments, this is over the last 10 to 15 years, we've seen a lot of more progressive departments go to this because really it's a cost saving in the long run. And it creates not only a needed position, because a position is needed. And again, this position has taken on so many more responsibilities that if we don't have the ability to reclassify it, as opposed to having the person walk that's in this position, I need to put them back under division chief. I need to take responsibilities away. And then in the next coming months or in the next fiscal year, I need to put in for a support services administrator. It really disrupts the whole organizational structure going forward and what we've achieved to this point.
And I appreciate the thoughts that you have, guys. I totally do. But I think he's put enough of the research into it and shared it. I'm not sure. I mean, I get what you're saying, Chuck. I just don't know what more we're going to see other than the job descriptions and the way he's described it. So that's, I support this. I've put a lot of time talking to the chief about it and talking to administration about it. HR is not here tonight to talk about their Do they have any feedback on this? Did they?
Yeah, Aaron had a conference and is at a conference in Omaha. HR supports this. HR is the one that developed the array, helped develop the job description. Yeah, I support it. Frankly, I hadn't seen the term office manager used in a police department in 10 years until I moved back to Grand Island. The director or the support services administrator, whatever term you use after support services, is commonly found across the U.S. in police departments much smaller than ours. It is, as Kevin said, and again, I rely on the subject matter expert, both himself and our HR director. This is a normal classification of someone who is at the executive level and would be one of 3 people reporting directly to the chief of police. That is not clerical work, in my opinion, and to say that it is the same as an administrative assistant, I strongly disagree. There's a reason why we have a title administrative assistant and we don't use the title secretary anymore also.
Thank you. I again, respect the questions you're asking. I just have a different view of it. I think I've seen enough that this is warranted.
Mr. O'Neill.
I think there are a couple others in order of me, but I can go. Just a couple other questions too. So, and I get the job description is very different than what it was, and I think I'm in agreement with that. And what I was saying too is I want to make sure that that job description comp is looked at other comps, and I'd like to see where the comps are in that to make sure they are even. And that probably, I don't know if that's in there, maybe I missed that part, but.
Well, no, what I want to point out for you, I appreciate that. I asked that question when I first got here. The way our array is done, and this is, you probably see our department heads nodding their head, yes, because the way our array is done, it's done by job title. We don't, our consultant does not gather job descriptions for us. So we often are making our best guess based on a title. It would be great if we could get into more detail than that, but that's the process that Nebraska requires.
And the other part of my question too is I assume this is a very talented person or he wouldn't be talking about this change as well. I just want to make sure that there is, I don't know what type of vetting process was done because this is a whole different position and skill set. I want to make sure that that we remove any bias in the process of when we do this. But I mean, who all had vetted that this is a, I don't know if like the city HR works with the police on this too, but just to make sure that the qualifications are met by this person to move into that new role.
I can also assure you that although I love everybody in the police department, I evaluate positions. I don't evaluate people for those positions. And what we've done over the last 30 months is evaluate each position and making each one of those as efficient and effective as we can.
And I just want to make sure there is a fair process done on that. I mean, it sounds like you've considered it, but I just have to ask as well when I see a change like that. So, thank you.
Mr. Pollock.
Thank you, Mayor. Chief, if the job is that much different, why was there not a new job title put out there and request for applications? If it's that much different, then it's different than the person that's handling it. So I would think that we would want the best person for that job. I'm not saying that this person isn't the best person, because they would have the right to apply too. But if we are making it that much different, then we need to be looking for the person that fits it.
I think what you see is a microcosm of an overall symptom of what's been going on in the police department, at least over the last 10 years or so, is that there's been a failure, and I'm not blaming anybody or any group, but there has been a failure to incrementally add things. We look at our radios, we look at our vehicles, we look at our personnel, we look at our restructuring. There's been a failure to incrementally change things over a period of a decade, and in this case, since 2019. And so what we're looking at is a catch-up period that could have been done in 2020, 2021 incrementally to get to this point where we wouldn't even be here today, probably. But that's the gap that we're seeing.
I understand that. We were a mess in 2020, but so was half the country. I still want to see all those job descriptions, and if they're that much different, I really would like to see it opened up for applications.
Yeah,
That's
council
my
member, I
opinion.
just want to make sure everyone understands and the public understands. The
Yeah.
job descriptions, both the office manager and the support services administrator,
right.
job descriptions are in the packet and available for public review.
I'm done.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor.
Mr. Lanfear,
I assume that this position is a non-sworn officer position, right?
Yes, sir. It's a non-sworn position and it's a salaried position.
I have no problem with it. I think I've heard enough that I think is needed. I sort of regret the title of it. I think it could have been better. It's kind of misleading what the responsibilities will be. But I think it's a needed position. I would like to see it possibly be opened up to the public. But otherwise, I still support.
Mr. Hawsey,
Thank you, Mayor. Chief, I just wanted to say one thing. I'm in favor of your restructuring. What I'm not in favor of is the process of the reclass. If you would add a new lieutenant, non-officer, senior executive level, and removed one office manager, and you had a competitive, everybody got to apply for it, I would be in favor of it. So it's one of those, it's the reclass part that I get hung up on, because they were, from all our intent, and, you know, they were a clerical position in the tech, in that they oversaw police records clerks, and just, that's all they did, was oversee those. You've added in some things that we haven't seen before, and I think you've already done it. I'm assuming you've already done it.
I have, yes.
Yeah, and so we didn't know that. I mean, it's not, when you approve the change in the job description, I don't know that we ever saw it on the council side. It wasn't a council decision to change, it was just done administratively, and we don't know that stuff. But it changes it enough that it's really taking it from, this level to this level. And because the change is so drastic, it's the internal equity that I worry about. And so if it's an open position and everybody gets to apply for it, all of my concerns are gone. And so it's not the way you're structuring it is my concern. It's just the process that we're going through.
Well, if there was a way through the reclass to open it up, I would.
In Aaron's absence, I just want to make sure that what he has told me gets conveyed to you, because we had heard that question, I think, via email about has it been opened up, or perhaps someone who was commenting on it said that. With the reclass, the office manager position is eliminated. Therefore, that person in the process that you're suggesting would be laid off. Certainly able to reapply, but you just need to understand that position would be eliminated in order to create the new position of a support services administrator. So that's not something that, and from what Aaron has told me, that's not a practice the city of Grand Island has ever engaged in. So we do not eliminate, or we do not lay people off when we reclass a position. And I just want to reiterate what the chief said, part of what he's addressing with this proposed new job description. That job description hasn't been approved yet. It hasn't been adopted because the position hasn't been approved. The reclass hasn't been approved. We've not done that process where we eliminate someone when we reclassify their position because the work has been being added to their plate under that wonderful other duties as assigned that we put in every job description since 2019. What we are proposing is a correction to something the city has failed to do since 2019.
And I don't think we're never intending to lay people off. That's not the concern. My concern is that everybody who has that skill set has the ability to apply. And that everyone and I don't know any specifics about any of it, but I am concerned that internally, that everybody who qualifies for that would have the ability to apply. Now, I would hope that the internal candidate you're talking about applies, and I would hope that they would get the job. I mean, because I'm sure that the skill set is there. But it's the process of removing everybody else's ability to apply that concerns me.
I think a big point too on that is, as the Administrator said, we've added these jobs on and these duties and these responsibilities and supervisory things. There has been an attempt prior to me coming here to add some pay to this position, the office manager position. That was several years ago, and that's kind of why we're at where we're at. Is it's number one to me, as I mentioned in the email to everyone, it's a needed position. If you accept that it's a needed position based on me telling you that and my experience and my time and my educational background, if you accept that it's a needed position, it's also one that I've looked at other things, other alternatives as lower cost and being right by the person in this position as well, what they've been doing for the last 6 years. But it's number one, it's a needed position. Number two, it's the least expensive of any other option that we have, except not approving it.
Mr. Still?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to give you my support for reviewing this, the support that Laura gave you, Aaron's put in on it, and what Jack has said and put in on it. I think we just need to move forward and go with it. There are some things we need to iron out on the description, but I support you for the pay level of the new job. Thank you.
There are no further questions. Or Mr. O'Neill, you have a question?
No, I didn't mean to have my
Okay.
So are there any other questions on any other reclass? Okay. I'm split evenly on the office manager reclass, so okay. We'll move on to what we have now is capital equipment.
Mr. Brown?
Let me go back to say that I totally support the reclass. I don't think I was specific on that.
Okay. Thank you, Doug. So on the equipment, let me just pull this up a different way. Okay, this doesn't really show it very well. So we'll just go by, actually, we're just going to do this way. So building capital equipment was a vehicle, inspection vehicle. We've just been replacing his as we go. It is replacing a 2000 Ford 2010 Ford Focus, so.
Mr. Hawsey?
Thank you, Mayor. So Pat, one of the questions that came up at an earlier meeting, and it's on vehicles.
Okay.
I don't have any particular question on vehicles. My question came about hybrid versus gas engines, or electric versus hybrid versus gas engines. Are these all going to be gas engines? Because I think historically what the council has looked at is we've been adding a hybrid or two every year for the last, I'll say 5 or 6 years, maybe more. But we've been adding hybrids just in small quantities to see how they come out, whether they're the right ones or not. I'm okay with adding a couple of hybrids to keep testing the shop and getting the responses from the shop about, yeah, these make a lot of sense or they don't make a lot of sense. So when these vehicles come up, how do I know whether we're talking about a gas engine or a hybrid or an electric car? Because I'm not concerned about the vehicle itself. I just was more curious than about what type of engine are we going to have in them. Like this is a building department?
So actually, the only hybrid would be the police. So the building department is going to be a gas.
That might be the only department that actually could use an electric car. You know what I'm?
I would agree.
It's one of the things. Central City had an electric car for their building department. That might be one that I think makes sense because they never go out of town, and that their use is different than a police cruiser. So,
to your point, I like the idea. With that, you would have to putting or installing a charger here at City Hall. So, I mean, that's a one-time cost. But if we went that, well, I guess you really, hybrid. Some hybrids plug in, some don't, I guess.
do we have chargers in our system, in our shop, in our anywhere at our offices? No.
I would imagine that Law Enforcement Center
Law
has.
Enforcement Center has one? Or
No?
multiple? No?
All right.
So no, there aren't any, there's actually a dearth of them in the entire city. So the one that's at Super Saver, and then some of the Bosselmans have them.
That's the only thing my thing is, I just want to make sure that we're using the right type of vehicle for the right use. And
Sure.
so that would be my only questions. I'm not concerned about the cars.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm not sure how, I don't know if we should go through this one by one because I think that'd be crazy. So my assumption is that you've seen most of these equipment requests. Again, the only one, and Kevin can correct me if I'm wrong, the only one I don't think he really talked about in his presentation was the firing range. Again, I could be wrong, but I don't remember that. So yes. Some odd reason it's not pulling up. I'll do it this way.
Mr. Sheard, I think you have a question?
Yeah. So I think what you're looking for is the police
Yes.
training at
It's this one right here.
There you go. And what was that, 675,000, or? Yeah, we didn't hear much about that one.
Yeah, I'm trying to pull up his actual request form. I'm not sure why it's not pulling up.
I think Jason might have mentioned briefly on Tuesday.
So actually, to put it in context, we had an estimate done on what it would cost to have a building put on the Law Enforcement Center campus there. And what we've done, as you know, is decide to renovate Heartland Ag at a much less costly price than it would be to build a new building, and we're getting a lot more bang for the buck. We're getting collaboration with water department's great. So that's a win. The building cost on the campus of the LEC was initially estimated 3 years ago to be $1.9 million. It would have gone with interest to about 2.1. What we have tentatively arranged is to park that 1.9 million because we have other capital projects that we need to do. So renovating Heartland Ag is estimated to be just over 1.1 million. The next highest priority is to add some office space, some cubicles for our code enforcement officers and our animal control officers to the existing pound, auto pound building. And so we move out code enforcement out to that location. Makes that response, customer service a lot better overall. That's probably about $150,000 or so. And then we need to completely replace the gates at the law enforcement center. We don't know exactly what that's going to be. So the next in priority was going to be to partner with the Heartland Shooting Range and look at how we could collaborate and put up a law enforcement only range area in conjunction with the berms that they have, or a berm that they have, so that we don't, number one, disrupt what they have going on at the Heartland Shooting Range Park, and that we don't add traffic to what they have. So we'd ideally have a separate entrance, and this range, which is very typical of police departments, actually a lot smaller than ours to a lot larger. They have their own law enforcement only range. It greatly increases our ability to train our officers, as well as Hall County deputies. It also gives us the ability to host classes and to have some of those classes pay fees and to help support the law enforcement range. So ideally, depending on how much money we have left in that 1.9 million capital, would go toward what we can do to construct a law enforcement range facility at Heartland Shooting Park.
Is that something you think that we could hold off a year until we've seen all of the other projects come through? It seems that, I think it's awesome, and I think it'd be another great feather in the cap of Heartland Shooting Park, but is it something that we could wait a year for a budget to see how all these other building projects and capital projects come through for you?
Absolutely. What I'm doing right now is I'm just in the beginning stages. I didn't realize coming from Texas how expensive dirt was in Nebraska. I would have brought some with me from Texas. But what I'm doing right now is looking at where we can beg, borrow, and steal dirt, although obviously it's going to cost money for trucks and people to haul that dirt. And so that's where we are right now with that. I'm setting that up, planting the seed that this is something that we want based on where our capital budget is after these others. But that is something that is on the priority list. Right now, it's the lowest on that whole capital. And we haven't moved forward with any hard financial commitments or anything. And we've had this 1.9 million for a couple of years now because we've anticipated building a building. I'm glad we waited, actually. I'm glad it is kind of waited like this because what we're doing with Heartland Ag, as I've mentioned before, I won't go over the benefits of it, is just a tremendous partnership. So that's great. And it's a money saving. And so we'll see where we are, but it's down the priority list, so I don't know if we'd even start touching it in the next fiscal year. We may be close, but I'll come back to you well before that.
I know you will. I just think, it's not going to be the 1.9 that you're going to spend on the building, but nothing comes in at the price we expect it to, and I'd hate to have multiple projects going within that budget. So yes, I think that one to me is an easy one to pull off for this year and reduce that. So
we wouldn't
have
definitely-
it take. What's
I'm
that?
sorry, we would definitely wouldn't go over that 1.9 million at any point. I just wanted to see how much is left, so I know how much dirt I can haul in.
Exactly. So Pat, if we moved that out of here, that would take you pretty much down to what? Does that solve all the problems?
It does, actually.
Perfect. Good answer.
Aim the please.
Mr. O'Neill.
Just another thing for Chief here as well. I've probably asked you about this before, but part of me asking is to kind of clarify for public record too. But out at the Law Enforcement Training Center by the airport, I think they're building a new indoor firing range as well. And I know maybe their needs don't kind of mesh with yours where you have a whole lot of synergy. and time, but maybe you can kind of comment on that, if there's any shared things you guys do with them in the interim as well.
We have a really good partnership with the training center. I go to the Police Standards Advisory Council meeting almost every month when they have it. I have a very good relationship with the director there and the executive director. I'm also on the Crime Commission now. So we have a very good relationship with them. But that's kind of where it ends as far as access to their range, because they have NSP classes that are out there. They have 3 classes of recruits a year, and then they do training. They do firearms qualifications for themselves and other places that don't have ranges or access to ranges. So
A lot of blacklisted dates, basically.
yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
which
We
helps
have-
justify why you need more.
We haven't been out there probably, since I've been here, so 3 or 4 years at least.
And one other question too, are there still some issues with like the exterior of your building out there as well currently that we need to address?
I believe
or-
there are. They're doing a lot of renovations. The skid pad that you've seen, which is gigantic concrete slab for the cars, the range itself. They've also have some building improvements to do. And they also hired, they used to have 7 instructors, now they have 10. They're trying to get authorization for 14.
Thank you.
So on, then I would assume that all the other equipment passes on its request, or if there's something else that you would like to talk about. Okay.
Oh, Mr. Pollock?
Thank you, Mayor. No, Pat, I think all the rolling stock and the equipment it's needed.
Okay.
It's wore out, and I know the PD vehicles have got a jillion miles on them, so I don't see anything wrong with any of the equipment.
Very good. So we'll move on to parks, projects, okay? And in this conversation, I am assuming for council here that the projects for streets, which are in a 1 and 6 plan, the enterprise funds, which is electric, water, wastewater, those projects, they're systematic, they're strategic, they're in a rate study. I think we're all good with those, I believe. If there's something you would like to discuss, please let me know. Otherwise, we'll move to the parks projects because we have so many there. But before we get into the parks projects, we do have an update on the South Locust Trail to Camp Augustine. Keith?
Yes, so based on the conversation the other night, obviously during that meeting, I had sent an email to the consultant that we currently have working on this project. And as you guys remember, I believe it was several months back, we amended our existing contract with JEO to continue design of this project, primarily in preparation for moving this project forward so we could deliver in the next budget year. With that being said, in kind of the background of this too, when we hired JEO back in 2024, early 2024, the intent of this was to get this off the ground to a point where we would have a engineer cost estimate. And as I understand, the goal with that was so that there could be a look for grant funding applications for that project. Obviously, it's a large cost, but the other component to that we have to realize is with those grant applications, we were anticipating federal funding. So as you all know, federal funding comes with its own strings and different things that we have to do to comply with those funds. So that cost estimate, one, it was very early, again, dated back to almost a year ago. Two, we were anticipating federal funding, so we were using a higher cost, which I do believe to be true, and we could talk about other projects that we've completed, both on a cost and a timeline scale, on how those things impact that, as well as there's a lot of environmental permitting that's necessary. So during the meeting the other night, I emailed and said, we really need to look at an updated cost estimate. So we're moving towards, I would call where we're at probably a 60% design at this point. So there's still some components that we need to look at. So keep that in mind with what I'm going to share with you on this. We're also going to make the assumption on these numbers that we're only going to build one bridge at this time. The original project, the intent was to cross both the north and the south channel of the Platte River. In discussion with the grand scheme of the plan out at Camp Augustine, it probably makes more sense to cross that south channel within the park, not out by the 4-lane busy road, interstate interchange, all of that kind of stuff. There's a lot more opportunity for different activities in the park for that bridge. So it was decided it was probably not advantageous to move forward with engineering design on a second bridge. We'd focus on the north channel, get it to the entrance of the park, build a small temporary, what I would call a small temporary trailhead today, and then when the park project itself comes into play, we would pick that trail up from there, bring it however the landscape architects and engineers see fit at that time into the park, use the bridge there, whatever. So with that being said, looking at all of that, our estimate right now with engineering, which we've got some of this done, but I'm going to give you what the whole project cost would be estimated as, which does include the work up to this date. We're anticipating about $4.3 million. Now, I know that's still a lot of money, and I know Councilmember Nickerson was focused on the $1 million a mile, which honestly, $1 million a mile, where that stems from is, we used to say, and this was 15 years ago, $1 million for a lane mile, 1 lane mile. So a lane mile on a road is 12 foot wide. Now a trail, we're looking at a 10-foot trail. We're going to say that we're just going to use the assumption that both of those would be the same. Today, and my rule today, and I bounced this off a couple other engineers today, I feel 1.5 is a better estimate for a lane mile today. So we take the bridge out of this, 4.3, we're hitting that 1.5-ish number on this. This does not, the other thing that this does not include, it includes negotiation and appraisals for so many tracks of right-of-way. It does not include the right-of-way cost. So based on the design today, I'm estimating we're probably going to spend, I think we could probably acquire right-of-way, which it isn't a lot. Most of it's temporary easements or easements. I think the right-of-way purchase price is probably around $50,000. Now, that's saving every tree we can save. I think that there's a discussion to be had with parks, and we kind of talked about it briefly the other day. Are all those trees that we're trying to save really worth saving? Would it be easier, more cost-effective to bring the trail in and take a tree out, plant a new tree, and call it a day? We don't have to acquire right-of-way. We don't have to do appraisals. We don't have to go through all the process. So my numbers, again, are a little unsure. There is some contingency built into it. If we bid it today, I think we would be under that number, but we're not there yet. So I do want to be a little conservative in that. So it doesn't get us down to the $1 million a mile, and we do have to build a bridge. So that's kind of where we're sitting on that project. I don't know if anybody has any questions or
Well, I'm
comments on
glad
that.
you took it upon yourself to circle back with the JEO, because Tuesday night when that 7 million figure popped up on the screen, I about fell out of my chair because I had always understood it was not that much money. So I don't know what the council's going to do with this, but the 4.3, and I hear a lot of numbers as mayor, but the 4.3 is more in line with what I've been hearing over the months. So I'm glad you circled back with JEO and got some clarification. I appreciate that. Plus, I did talk, after our meeting Tuesday night, I did talk to a person involved who does construction and was told the 7-figure was not in line. So, I mean, that's just anecdotal. But, so I appreciate you doing that, Mr. Kurtz. And that 4.3 is what you confirmed with JEO? Okay. I don't know if anybody else has any questions, but I want to thank you for doing that.
So one little cleanup matter. Before we move on to the parks projects, I did want to discuss the Jason Hornaday request that was to council, and what their thoughts are, and do you want to fund those? What we have here, Jason had followed up with a very nice email to council. So the items were drainage solution for trap and ski fields of 47, completion of a new sporting clay loop, 97,000, and storage building rehab of 390, for a total of new budget of 534.
Mr. Sheard.
Thank you. Well, if we just took 675 out of one that was going to go at the Heartland Shooting Park, this is less than that we could almost net it out equally there. I think, I'm always embarrassed to say things are low numbers when they're $500,000, but in comparison, this is a pretty low number to me compared to some of the other projects. And if it's a building we own that needs to be rehabbed and taken care of so it can be used properly, I guess I would like to put the whole thing in now and get it done with. That's my thought.
No further comments.
Okay. So parks projects. So we have, I guess, the main ones to talk about is the Stelly Park train area, the Ryder Field renovation, and the Ryder Park baseball field renovation. Todd added, and this is in here, Pier Park Lake Trail, and the South Locust Trail and Island Oasis.
Mr. Sheard.
Pretty talkative tonight. Two thoughts I have. One, I haven't spent much time hearing about the Pier Park until the other night. And it seemed like that was something that was in the early stages that isn't, maybe from Todd, isn't as high a priority as these other four, as my sense. And that would be one that you seemed a little less, I don't know, your enthusiasm was a little lower on that one.
Yeah, no, I mean, when we submit our budgets in March, and we really haven't made a lot of progress on that. So if there was one of these that you're looking to slip to the following year, I would say this would be one that you could probably push to the following year.
So one that is a little bit bigger price tag is the Island Oasis. And I know I'm going to be not popular here, but I'm going to ask some questions. When we look at the changes that we've talked about, and I think they are slick, they look good. I like to putt-putt, that's fine. But the difference in cost between the renovating to get it to where it's going to be as the good a quality as it can be in its current state for 20 years, is about 3 million. And going all in with these upgrades is 15.9 million for 20 years. And that is a difference, if my math holds, of about 12.9 million. And by the time that we do financing on this, we're looking at 20 years of that. Let's say it was financed at 0%, which we know it won't be. Let's say we just did it all with cash. Is that difference worth $12 million over 20 years? And I don't expect everything the city does, trust me, to make revenue in everything we do in Parks and Rec. I know we subsidize these things for quality of life. But the life of that park, is it a $12 million difference, $13 million difference? Is that going to be worth it over 20 years? Crystal ball it.
So I don't know if I can answer that question specifically, but I'll give you a little bit of background again. I did go through the master planning process. We took public input. The consultants gave us some recommendations. I will say that the $3 million project is night and day different than the $15 million project. The $15 million project is basically a complete renovation of the facility. It's basically, everything is new, honestly. The lazy river would stay the same, but the wave pool would be separated from the leisure pool. Again, the putt-putt golf is new. We don't have that. The splash areas, which we don't have. Some of the recommendations from that master plan, the children's areas, we don't have dedicated children's area at the water park, so we're really not serving that group very well. So we're trying to serve those groups, trying to find ways to add more revenue. So that was another thing that we wanted to do, and the $15 million plan does do that, right? So the $3 million is literally pumps and filters. It's just all behind the scenes. You wouldn't see anything.
Does it get rid of the sand?
The sand, that's the sand areas?
Yeah. I was thinking it did get rid of that, but
it may get rid of the sand areas, but that's honestly just a minor thing. I mean, we could do that tomorrow if we had to do that. I mean, that's just a minor thing.
Okay.
Honestly. So to answer your question, I know it's a big dollar. Aquatic facilities, aquatic facilities today are expensive. That's why cities build them, and not a lot. You don't see a lot of private aquatic facilities, but it is a major renovation. And just to let you know where we're at, of course, we've had some presentations. We did hire the design firm. They came and gave a presentation, and the design is ready to go, and we were ready to go out and bid. So anyway, I hope that answers your question.
It does, and I 100% love all the feedback we got, but I'll fill out forms and say I want things if they don't have a price tag attached to it. If we'd have said this is a $12 million price tag, do you still put that above some of these other things? I'm not sure everybody would still feel that way. I would rank it high if I don't have to see a price. I don't know that we are ever going to be back. I think you said a few months ago or a month ago or so that we probably will never be back to the numbers at Island Oasis that we were before all the competing parks in neighboring towns came up. So the question is doing this going to make an impact to make it so much more special that we're going to pull from other towns? I don't know. I don't know.
And I don't know if, again, I can answer your questions, but in my opinion, we're selling a destination, not just Island Oasis, just Grand Island. It's more for people with things to do. The location is amazing that we have at Island Oasis. The putt-putt golf, the families, the being open longer in the season. So we're going to serve more people, bring in some more revenue. You're right. I don't know that we'll ever have 120,000 swimmers like we did when we were the only water park in the state of Nebraska. But I do believe this is a good plan to, bring more visitors to Grand Island, and again, give it, I guess provide that package to our visitors to Grand Island. Yes.
Well, I would love to hear what everybody else has to say. I just I know I'm not going to be popular, but I appreciate your feedback.
Mr. Hossie.
Thank you, Mayor. So Todd, I've got a couple of things I want to talk about. The first one, let me talk about Pier Park. We talked the other day about two of the three fountains are running. The feedback that I've gotten is that there still is the smell. The smell problem still does exist. And I don't know if the answer is the third fountain. We've been trying to discuss this for more than a decade, and it doesn't seem to get fixed. I know that you said the third fountain has been out for a long time. I don't know if that's the cure or not, Todd. We need to fix that smell so the neighbors don't have to sit in their back porch and do that. That's what I want to make sure that at Pier Park, we focus on whatever we're doing to that lake, when we're going to have to fix the walls or whatever we're doing, we need to fix the smell as well. And I know it's not every day, but it's just certain times, and I don't know the details of how it works and how it doesn't work. But I do know that it is a community, neighborhood problem, and it hasn't gone away for good. So we still need to remediate those problems. At Island Oasis, I think creating the putt-putt or the miniature golf course, I think it's a great thing to add an additional use to attract people. I think it's dependent upon how well you do it, how well it's done. I've been to ones that I wouldn't go back to a second time. I've been to ones that I would go back time and time again. So I think there is a difference between how you build the miniature golf part of it. It can be a heck of an attraction, or it can be a dud, you know. But whatever we build, I'd like some marketing expertise behind it as to the attraction. I don't want to just do it from what you think or what I think. I really want some science behind, if you build this, you're going to attract this. If you build that, you're going to attract something else. You know, and trying to extend the season is a great thing. We've been talking about this for a long, long time. So I'm in favor of extending the season at Island Oasis. I'm in favor of doing a quality putt-putt or miniature golf. But I want to see some numbers. I want to see, what do you build? Because I don't just want something that's just going to be there and not have a wow factor to it. I'd love to see it indoors because I think that'll really extend your season. You know, again, I think it could be a beneficial from the revenue side. It could make up the shortfall from when we used to have 2,000 plus a day at the water park in the very beginning. You know, so I think it can actually put some life back into that facility in a good way if we do the right thing. In the same thing with the golf, and one of the things that came up after our Tuesday meeting, we got an email, I think you were on that email as well, from Justin from Landscapes. The irrigation problem, again, it's a 40-year-old irrigation problem. It does need some fixing, and I don't know. I know we talk about capital, you know, I'd like to see some, I don't want to just see those kind of projects overlooked. You know, even if they didn't submit them, it's still our course. You know, that's his point, is still the city's course. And I still want us to have a thumb on what it needs, what it doesn't need. Are our contractors doing what we need them to do? I want to make sure, and if that irrigation system needs to be repaired, I don't want it to just be overlooked because Landscapes didn't do something. You know, they don't have a dog in the fight other than they manage it for us, you know. But every dollar goes in, every dollar goes out is a public dollar, you know. And so I want to make sure that we have a concept of what's going on out there and what do we need to fix, even if they can't afford to pay it out of the revenues from the golfers. I know that we've talked for a long, long time about paving the parking lot at the golf course. It's never been on the capital projects, and it's 40 years in the making. And you know, again, it never makes the list, but we can spend $500,000 somewhere else, and they just brought it up this year. You know, for the life of me, I just like, when I bring my golf cart out and I have to go through the gravel and everything, and all this stuff gets in my car, and then I'm vacuuming my car out every week. You know, I've been to other courses that have paved lots. It's not that, you know, it's not that unique to have a paved lot at a golf course. So again, I wish that I would see that sometime, and I've been on the council, this is my 18th, maybe 19th budget year as a council member, and I've yet to see it. And so I see all these other requests. The other thing is we talked at the golf course about a simulator. For the same reason we talked about Island Oasis, the simulator was a great idea to extend the season. We had a simulator down on South Locust called Bearded Buffalo Golf. It was a wonderful thing. A friend, my partner, golf partner and I, we golfed down there January, February, March, probably a little bit into April. It was a wonderful thing for us to do in the winter because my muscles aren't getting any better, they're getting older, and so it's just a nice thing to do. But when COVID came along, they didn't make it through COVID. They closed up. There was an opportunity, and we've talked about this opportunity for years now. I think that I'd like to see that same logic of extending the season and providing things that the community needs, like the simulator out at the golf course. I don't care who runs it. That I'll leave in your thing. But these are the projects that I don't see ever come up because I'm not so sure who's listening. They're not asking because their job is just to manage the golf course. Our job is to think about what do we want to do with the Grand Island Public Golf Course. And so those are the things I want some of us to put in, not expect them to do it all, like the paving, like the simulator, because it will extend the season. It will do a lot of things. It will provide value in the middle of the winter, in the non-golf season, to the course and to the people that play that game. And I know there's quite a few. I don't know the numbers that do golf, but I know that Bearded Buffalo Golf prior to COVID had a lot of people. They had 50-some people in our league, and then I'm like, there was 7 leagues or whatever it was. There was hundreds and hundreds of people that did the winter golf. And so I think these attractions are kind of getting overlooked, and year after year after year they keep getting overlooked, and no one's bringing them to the table. And I wish we would, as a municipality, when we own these courses, even though we have a contractor managing them for us, we still have to have a pulse on what do we want to see out of it, and then what do we tell the contractor we want them to do in response. And so I wish that we would see some of those things make their way into the list, and I think that for the same valid reasons that we do in other places. So thank you, Todd.
Thank you, Mr. Hossie. Mr. O'Neill.
I just want to talk in particular about Island Oasis. So if we spend over $15 million on something, I want it to be used. I want it to be used more than what it is now. And I think things that extend the days of operation are the most important out there. I think the miniature golf is extremely important. Right now, you have this massive investment. You only use it for just under 3 months a year. I want to see, if we make this investment, are there other studies that we've done to show, do we think would increase the amount of people coming? Do we have those numbers?
We do. It was in the master plan that we did, and that was part of the, by including the splash areas, the children's areas, making it more family friendly. That was the idea behind the renovations, was to bring more customers, more swimmers.
And how late in the year do you think you could extend the business through the golf?
We think we can go until October.
And I'm sure that labor is probably a major consideration of why you kind of close the park down when you do now. Do you think that there would be possibilities to extend it a bit further with a little more limited capacity operations potentially?
Yes, so our plan right now with the miniature golf and the splash pad area is actually offer a section of the water park that can be open during those other times. Yes, if we can get staffing to stick around after school starts, then we can actually stay open on a few weekends too.
Yeah, and I understand the mini golf and the splash should be separate, which is a fantastic idea. I'd encourage more of that planning too. But you would think you can do part of the actual water park as well outside of that potentially.
Yeah, that would be the hope, yes. And again, time will tell from a staffing standpoint, but yeah, for sure on the splash pad area and the mini golf.
And I just really encourage you, if we make an investment like that too, I want to make sure we have it open long enough hours that people can use it as much as they need. I think a couple nights it closes a little bit earlier currently.
We've actually have expanded our hours here the last 2 years just
From
because
what
we
has
have had more success adding staff. So we're actually going in the right direction. So if we can continue that, then yes, we'll hopefully be open more.
I figure, and yeah, and I guess just kind of last thing, I figure if there's not an increase in numbers, we're probably doing it wrong. But I assume these things would help drive people, and that needs to be the real focus is drive more. So, thank you.
Absolutely.
Mr. Lanfear.
And some Mr. Shearer over there. Is $12 million more worth it? I've been to Hastings Water Park, Wood River. I'm not really sure that we need to go upscale on this. I think it'd be better off going just making repairs for the moment. So I really like to see us just do the $3 million and delay anything else. A golf course would be good. It's something that's kind of missed in this town, I know. But I'm not really sure $12 million more is worth it. Thank you.
Mr. Pollock.
Thank you, Mayor. Pat, we have just one bond payment right now, don't we? For the Husker Harvest Days? Or do we have
So
two?
no, that we're paying cash for that. So the,
Oh, we are paying
so the
cash.
loan that we have is for Veterans Complex.
Oh, okay.
And that'll be paid off in December of '27.
I would gladly rebuild the park. I would like to see it bonded. That way we can spread it out over time. And we'll have some money left over for the other projects, which I think you and Todd can sit down and figure out. I don't think I'm qualified to sit here and micromanage the Parks Department. I just, for some reason, it's not in my job description. But Todd can help you with what the important things are that need to be done and how much money he's got to work with. I think that would be the way to go. I know we have a meeting on Ryder Park coming up in October, wasn't it? I think.
Yeah, I believe that was, yes.
And we'll
for
discuss
the
that.
contract for the Ryder Park rehab.
And I'm all in favor of Ryder Park. I'm not really in favor of the deducts on some of it, but I was more inclined for the $4.5 million than I am for the $1 million that they dropped off. But that's just me and not the rest of the, I got two. So, yeah, I would like to do it that way, but I think bonding the water park is the only way to go.
Okay. Sounds good, thank you.
Mr. Brown.
Yeah, I like the complete project, but as I said before, it's got to have a wow factor where it's going to attract all these people. And being open longer in the year, I think that's a real good idea. But I'm for bonding long-term. The other thing is I've got quite a few calls this last week on the Pier Park stench of the lake. Can we do some kind of study or something on that to see if we can address that? Numerous calls this week when that came up again.
Well, that's come up for years and years and years. And Todd can speak to this. I thought, like in years past, was there some kind of chemical treatment used on that water? Or I thought John Collins mentioned some type of treatment, but it only lasts a while.
There was an algicide to keep the algae, to kill the algae, but what we were finding, it hasn't been used in a number of years. What was happening was it was actually creating more, because when the organic material would die, then it was creating more smell and actually more fish kills. So we've kind of gone away from doing the algicides.
Maybe have a contractor look at it and see what.
Well, as I've been, and Chuck mentioned it too. I think we talked about delaying the sidewalk project, and which is really going to be the seawall as well. Looking into the seawall. I think that would be the time to just kind of look at the options as well for. improving, you really need to improve lake quality. There's not an inlet or an outlet to the lake. I know Keith and I have talked about it before, what we could do to, improve some of the flow of the lake and that type of thing. So some more study would have to be done, yes.
I'd like to, maybe have somebody take a look at a professional and say, we need to do this or this. And I've been invited over there this weekend to smell it, so I guess I'll come back with you with a report.
And it's bad.
Bring your skateboard.
Mr. Stelk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to tell you what I'd like to see. I'm in favor of the Ryder Park project 100%. I think it has a lot of community backing, and I think it's well needed. Island Oasis, I'm too conservative to spend $15 million. I'd like to maybe do $3 million, and then, which would be your repairs, and then maybe do a couple other things to get the golf in, and maybe do a little bit every year, unless you find some way to bond it, and we can afford the bond payments on it. But that's just too much money for me to stomach. I like the Heartland Shooting Event Park and what Jason wants to do there. And then I really like the Stolly Park Train project. And the other small things, I think we could do some of them every year and keep going with that. But that's my 2 cents.
Thank you. I will just, and I've heard it mentioned a couple times about the Island Oasis. It is being designed with a wow factor. The putt-putt golf is being done with a consultant that designs these. That's what they do. So I want just let you know that it's not being designed in a small fashion. Put it that way. And then and I just want to let council be aware, though, the $3 million repair would be a $3 million repair for the existing facilities. So when you size a filter, you would be sizing a filter for what's there, sizing pumps for what is there. So if we were to try to do upgrades in the future, they may not necessarily work, if that makes sense. So we would be sizing for what is there currently. So just would make that clear.
Mr. Pollock.
Oh, I had actually asked to talk about the lake down there. When you have that many waterfall, use that as a house all winter long, and then it gets hot in the summertime and the bottom of that lake turns over, that's where you get the stench, and it's horrible. I've been sitting down there, and you gotta leave. You just can't take it. And what you can do with it other than dredging it out every few years, I don't know of any chemical that'll take care of it when it turns. Just got to get rid of the stuff on the bottom.
Mr. Hossie.
Thank you, Mayor. The one thing that I hear the most from my constituents is about something to do, and families included. I think we do a great job in the summer, spring, fall. I think we do a great job. But I think it's in the off-season, if we can develop things to do, that's, I think, what people here would benefit our citizens, if we gave them something more to do in the winter. I think we do a tremendous job during the summer. I wanted to mention Stolly Park and how well that garden is. I mean, it's fantastic. And so, kudos to everybody who put that together. Joyce and I were down there the other night, and some guy had put up this "Marry Me," and so he was proposing to his girlfriend. I mean, we're sitting there watching him set it all up, and there's rose petals all over, and so it's a wonderful place for them to do things like that, And when you witness things like that, you see how the community loves it, and they respond with, "Here's how it fits into my life, and here's how I do something special." So, the Stolly Park has been great. The one thing I hear on the water park is the ones with younger kids are now going to Hastings or going somewhere else because of the younger kids aren't getting their wow factor, or Hastings has something better than us for the kids, And so I think when we do these developments, I'm okay with the larger expenditure, as long as we're catering to all of those that we're missing. You know, what age groups do we do well with? What age groups do we not do well with? Kind of you need the marketing side to say, this is what's missing, and this is the people that are leaving, and this is where they're going to and why they're going. You know, obviously I like the putt-putt side, you know, and you said the little, what was the pond called that next to it? Next to the putt-putt?
Splash pad.
Yeah, the splash pad. October 15th, you think that's all you can get as far as extending it on the end? How about in the beginning? You know,
Yeah.
is there
I think as long as, yeah, I mean, of course, this year would be, you know, but as long as we have the staffing, it would be nice to keep it open as long as we possibly can, honestly, because we foresee it to be heavily used and revenue generating. And I should have mentioned, in that master plan we did with the water park, that was part of the evaluation of what are we missing for folks. This plan does have, you know, dedicated children's areas, and it's something that we're missing today.
So I think, you know, that's what I'd like to see try to focus on. And I wish that if we had a nice January, or, you know, a nice week in January, we could open up the miniature golf. I wish we'd open up the golf course. You know, sometimes I think even the golf course isn't open when it's a beautiful day in January. And unless there's a real reason not to be able to golf. So people that buy season passes at the golf course, they want to be able to go out on nice days. And I think part of the landscapes thing is maybe they're closed more than Don and Scott used to do it. You know, and so I think people were used to going out there on nice days in January and golfing. I think those are the things we really want to focus on, is in the wintertime, if we have opportunities to be open and to provide something, I'd like to think about that too, and not just have a solid date. We're going to open on, you know, April 15th, we're going to close on October 15th. You know, I'd like to be a little more flexible, because if it's nice out, everybody in their house needs to get out in the winter or the fall, you know, late fall. So if we can, that's where I'd like to try to focus more on. So thank you, Todd.
Mr. Sheard?
Thank you. One comment on that. I'm a member at Riverside, and I have golfed in every month of the year because they are open year-round, and sometimes I'm the only one. But if the grass is healthy enough to be out there, there'll be people out there, so I dig on that. You know, I've already said what I feel about, you've changed my mind a little bit about some of the excitement on it, and I do feel better knowing that we are looking at about $2.5 million less on the trail. I think that opens up a little bit more funding, that I'm not quite as worried as I was. Again, it's the silliest thing to sit up here and talk about $500,000 being small numbers, but in the scheme of things, having a couple of those things does help. To what Mark was saying, remind us on that plan, you don't have to get into the whole thing, but is there an opportunity to add some of the stuff? Was there a middle ground between $3 million and $16 million?
No, not really. You could.
Could there
well,
be?
Yes, no. Yeah, I shouldn't.
That's a big number.
I shouldn't say that. You could do the putt-putt golf, probably. You could do the putt-putt golf. You could add the putt-putt golf.
But putting in the bigger filters
But the thing is,
that you're talking
yeah,
about.
the filters and pumps would be sized for the pool. You wouldn't really be able to renovate the pool after you've put.
It doesn't make
dollars
sense
into
to do
doesn't
part of
make
it,
sense.
not all
You'd have
of
to
it.
rip it back
Yep.
out.
At that
Yeah.
point, you are looking at sunk cost, right?
Right.
That if you don't do it all, it's not worth
Right.
the bigger amount. All right. I was hoping for something there, but no middle ground. All right.
Mr. O'Neill?
I'm going to talk about that a little bit too. So, you know, if you just invested the $3 million, you're really just not doing anything for the wow factor. You're just basically kind of fixing what's there, no real change.
That's my concern about it, is the users won't see anything, honestly. I mean,
and
it'll give the life to the water park for another 20 years, but the users probably won't really see it.
I've been involved in other development projects, and sometimes you just try and rebuild it as it was versus make it much nicer. And that's really what's going to draw people in there and enhance it. Otherwise, there's not really an excuse to go check out the new things that can't really tell the difference on. The other thing I just want to talk about real quick is on the trail. I think I'm very supportive of that the price is heading in a different direction. It sounds like there's a little bit of interest for some other private contributions for it. I'd really like to see a little bit more of that and maybe give it a little time for some of those to come in there. I think maybe that's starting to trend in a positive direction to get some private funds. I don't think we want to wait forever. You need to kind of build something when it's going to be ready out there, but I'd like to have a little time for people to really get some fundraising going for that, to kind of help match that just a little bit. But I don't want to wait long, but I'd like to see maybe a little bit of who else will throw some money in on that too.
Mr. Hossie?
One comment on the trail, and Ryan kind of jogged my memory, is if we do a little bit of delay for fundraising or something like that, the other thing I think is the interest rate will probably be lower in time. And so I think we might benefit as well from the financing costs with a little bit of delay. I think it might give us time to still do it, but yet still kind of capture the benefits of lower interest rates that most people I talk to expect lower interest rates a year from now, lower than what they are today. I don't know. I don't have a crystal ball either. But I think those are the benefits, is we could see where the fundraising is, we could see where the interest rate is, and I think we could benefit by both factors with a little bit of lag time.
Mr. Brown?
I agree with that. I don't think we need just a little bit of lag time and see what private money we can get donated to this and the interest rates. I'm for Ryder Park, and I'm for the train, and I'm for the complete water park.
Mr. Sheard?
On the trail, if we were to allocate the money this year and we did get the funding, just by allocating the money doesn't mean we're doing the project, right? It just gives us the ability to do it so that if we did get some grants come in, if we did get some things to come in.
Yes, that's an excellent point, and it's a discussion that Pat and I have had of an option you always have is to say, include in your budget the 15 million, the big projects. And then the direction to staff is that we go back and we make sure we've gotten you the best value, that we've sized it appropriately. Plus, it gives the finance team the opportunity to look at what is the cost of borrowing, what's happening with interest rates, how much of the cash should be spent, and to actually run the numbers. We're kind of in a what comes first position, the chicken or the egg, right? We don't know how to have our financial advisors run the numbers on financing versus cash because we don't know how much you want us to spend. So if you say the full freight, the full amount, that does not mean that we spend it. Every decision would come back to you for that final decision.
Okay. Well, I don't know where we end up on that to tell you, but I don't have a problem with allocating $4.5 million to cover the land and that this year. I wouldn't be opposed to that. And I think this is the last thing I'm going to say tonight. I'm not going to press my button, but I'm going to use my last time to say that I really appreciate all y'all standing up in here and just getting grilled to pieces tonight and being able to have good answers. Carrie, you got grilled. Todd, we're just filleting you up and throwing you on the fire on something you've already spent all this time into. Chief, we beat you up all over. I didn't. I was pretty cool. I just want you to know that. Tell your officers that when I'm speeding down on my way home tonight. And to all of our department directors, Laura, Mayor, if you just pass on that this process has been thorough from all of them. We have asked a lot of questions of them, and it has been, in my 3 years of doing these, this has been the best process, even though it's probably been the messiest. I feel like this meeting has been as helpful, Mike, you and I have asked for this. I've asked you a lot of questions, and this has been a meeting that I've been hoping for. So I appreciate all of y'all that didn't talk tonight, but didn't get grilled for being here. Thank you to the staff. And I'm not pressing my button again.
You know, Jack, our city staff has worked very hard, and so has the city council. And that, the people of Grand Island need to acknowledge the time commitment of council members to come in and try to understand all of this information and make very weighty decisions. I'm going to express your thanks to city staff, but I want to express my thanks to the members of the City Council, a great governing body. Mr. Stell?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I guess I would like to get some advice from Laura and the city staff on how much to take out of reserves, how much we can bond, and how much we can put in our budget for next year, so we have an idea about what we can spend and that kind of stuff, or what we can set aside for projects.
So depending on comfort level, you know, if you want to spend all of your excess reserves, that's close to $20 million. I wouldn't recommend that. I'm comfortable with half to three-quarter. So now having the answers that I needed, that I got tonight, I can go back and start doing combinations of financing and cash. And it's a combination of both. And what would be best for the city.
And that's what I'm asking. I would also like to see the mill levy stay the same or drop some, so that we don't have to deal with that backlash.
Glad you asked. I actually got property tax number today. It was supposed to be yesterday, but it was today. And let's see here. It's kind of a crude sheet, but it's the bill. So in the 2026 line, this is our valuation this year, $5,055,209,483. It's just hard saying those big numbers. Last year's valuation was $4.6 billion. So our valuation, the city of valuation went up $378 million, which was an 8.1% increase. Tax ask for last year or this current year was $12,086,000, and if we do the same $12,086,000, we add in the admin fee that goes to the county, the total will be $12.2 million, the same as this current year. Our mill levy is currently for the city of 0.2610. It would drop to 0.2414. On CRA. The valuations are the same for CRA in the city. So Chad had indicated he was not going to increase the mill levy or ask for more, so he was doing the same tax ask as this year. The mill levy goes from 0.017 down to 0.015. So in total, city NCRA goes down 0.02 mils. So that is the update on property tax.
So how does that look like for like a $100,000 home on a regular mortgage? Are the taxes going to go down from last year, or do you see a slight increase?
All depends on valuation.
Our valuations are up, we should.
Yeah, and since ours is up, you can assume that your house is also going to go up.
Mr. Hossie?
Thank you, Mayor. Pat, my thoughts on the cash. You know, we have excess over our fiscal policy max. I'd be agreeable to more like the 3/4 and the half. You know, so I'd lean more towards using most of it. I don't think I would suggest using all of it, but I do think using 3/4 of it would be appropriate.
Okay.
Part of that could be if we looked at any kind of rebates, either you know, with the casino tax, or how do we handle the casino tax? I'd like to see whatever proposal that is part of. do we lower the property tax asking? Do we do a rebate? How do we handle a new revenue stream, and where do we tell the community, here's what we're doing with your money? Because this is a windfall for the city of Grand Island to have a casino here. So I'd like to have kind of that. What are we going to do with that? And where's it going? Because people ask me all the time, what are you doing with the money? And I don't want to tell them the big black hole called a general fund. I think it needs to have some definition behind it. And we need to get some credit for holding our tax rate down. The way we're able to do this is by the casino tax and other sales tax that are increasing. I know how we can do this. The community doesn't know, and so if we could somehow be able to label it or say it, with part of our budgeting process and budget messaging, I think that would be important. The other thing I would suggest is, we may be at a time, our fiscal policies came out a long time ago, I'll say 30 years ago. We've looked at them.
We updated it. You and I, we had a committee, we updated it in 2019.
Yeah, so it might be time to get it, maybe the 30% cap on our cap, maybe it needs to be reviewed. And maybe it's not enough reserve, maybe there's other factors that maybe we should go to 35% or 40% as a fiscal policy. Right now, we're over the policy, and I want to use that opportunity to do all these capital improvements, a lot of these things that we're talking about. And I'd rather use the cash part of that, at least 3/4 of it, to get us to where we need to do all these positive things in the community. And also on our debt side, I want to kind of reduce that as much as possible. Because I don't, right now the interest rate's a little higher than what it's going to be hopefully in the next year or so. But I do think maybe it's time to revisit. If it's 2019, maybe in 2026, maybe it's a good time to revisit that and get a couple of people together that can actually, work through all the details of the finance that you look at every day. And that's all I have.
So,
Thank you.
Mr. Hawsey, you're suggesting a committee to review the fiscal policy?
Yeah, I think last time we had half a dozen, Pat, if you can remember.
Yeah, it was you and I and Vaughn, and some others. I think it was 2 others, actually.
Okay, so there might have been 4.
Yeah.
That reviewed. I think that would be great if the mayor would create that and take a look at least. It may not change anything.
Sure.
But it might be a good time.
And in addition to looking at the policy, as you and I, the mayor, have had discussions on the 70% benchmark. Council, who's been around for a number of years, Mayor Jensen has used this 70% for personnel costs for the general fund. So total general fund expenditure, 70% is for personnel. Maybe it's time to revisit that, research that number. Is that good for Grand Island? And secondly, then incorporate it into the fiscal policy.
Well, and regarding that 70%, there are probably council members who haven't even heard that, but during Mayor Jensen's term, it was discussed quite often that we kept personnel cost at 70% of total expenditures. It's just always been a guideline. Mr. Hawsey told me Tuesday that guideline's been used for decades. I didn't know that. It's not written down anywhere. It's just been a guideline that, so maybe we ought to put it in policy or whatever the percentage is, because it can catch people unaware if you have a guideline. And for instance, if you're new to the council, well, how would you know? Okay. So something to think about.
I'd just say in the 90s, benchmarking was an important thing in municipal government, municipal finance, and budgeting specifically. And one of the things you want to do is you don't want to have people that don't have tools or don't have the right equipment. And so there is an optimal combination of labor resources, operational resources, and capital resources. And you need to have trucks, you know, for people to work in. You need to have tools for them to have, and you need to have people to do it. And finding that combination, well, at that time, you know, I think our benchmark at that time in the 90s, and it carried through Mayor Jensen's term, that benchmark was like 70 to 72% for labor. And so there was some, that's what we were talking about. In order to have the right number of people, that they had the right number of tools and everything so that they can do their job optimally. And that was just the goals, because having people with no tools doesn't help anybody. Because when we had, 20 years ago, when we had financial problems with things, you know, our salaries kept going up every year, and the one thing every budget would see was the operating expenses go down. Well, you cut the operating expenses so much that all of a sudden the people don't have the right tools to do the stuff. You know, and so then it became hard for a parks maintenance worker to repair something because he didn't have the tools to do it. And so that's where we kind of ran into where we had, our labor costs got too high. We didn't have enough money for tools, so we really had to balance. And we actually had I think a reduction in force, most of it through attrition, to try to get that balance in. And you're trying not to have to get to that point again where you're so out of balance that you have to do that. So the benchmarking is a way to try to stay in a range. It's not a rock science where it has to be here or here. It's just something that you know, you watch what it's doing so that you know that you don't get not enough capital or not enough operating or not enough people, you know, to operate the city. So it's a good resource for people like Pat and councils to understand is why you need more operating expenses. When we did bonding for the Platte Generating Station, one of the requirements is that your maintenance had to be a certain number, and you actually had to maintain it. Because if you didn't spend money to maintain it, the people that have the bonds on the thing knows that the power plant's not going to work if you don't maintain it. Because that's something that runs 24 hours a day. So there's an importance in the financial world that maintenance happens. You know, so that you don't get to like the water park and all of a sudden you need $3 million just to make it run tomorrow. No wow factor, just maintaining it. You know, and we've talked about the Heartland Event Center. It's a 20-year-old building. It needs a lot of maintenance. And so making sure that we do the right maintenance when it's needed and not having it backlog and get behind. So that's what benchmarking does. It would be a good thing to address in our fiscal policies, and I'd be, you know, whatever the mayor says, I'm happy with that.
Thank you tonight for
Mr. Pollack has a question.
Sorry.
Thank you, Mayor. Mine was just a real simple little soliloquy. I know you aren't going to like this, but this is going to call for more meetings to figure all this out. And I know everybody will make you all happy, but we do. We need to sit down and have some meetings on this and get a discussion. Sorry, Pat.
No worries. No.
That's all. Thanks a lot. Nice presentation. Administration did a great job. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you, Council.
Pollack. We've completed our agenda. Excellent meeting, I might add. Everybody have a nice evening.